Ever feel like your mind has a mind of its own? Like there's this relentless inner dialogue pulling you into past regrets or maybe anxiously projecting into future worries. It keeps you just out of reach of, true peace. It's a profound human dilemma, really, this incessant mental chatter. We've all felt it. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into Eckhart Tolle's Practicing the Power of Now. And this isn't just about understanding spiritual concepts, not at all. It's more like a masterclass in practical liberation. It offers these direct pathways to actually shift your lived experience. This book, it came out in 2001, and it serves as this really potent distillation of the core teachings from his bigger work, The Power of Now. It makes them immediately accessible, for daily application.
Yes, and what's truly essential about Practicing the Power of Now is how it's designed for meditative reading. It's really not about intellectual consumption, not just gathering information. It's more like an invitation to enter a different state of consciousness as you engage with the material itself. The words, you see, they're birthed from a state of presence, and they carry this kind of vibrational quality. It can actually awaken presence in you, the reader. So each rereading isn't just a review, it becomes an opportunity for a deeper felt realization. It's not knowledge to hoard, it's a state of being to access.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is really to extract the most potent insights, the most practical exercises from Tolle's work. We want to offer you a kind of direct route to experiencing what he calls the power of now in your own life. We'll explore how even subtle shifts in attention, tiny changes, can lead to really profound and lasting transformation, moving beyond just understanding it up here.
Mm-hmm. In the head.
To a deeply lived, embodied experience of presence. It's about uncovering that practical path to inner freedom. Okay, let's start with part one, understanding the core teaching the mind in the now. Tolle introduces this concept he calls being. Now that's a term that, for many, might immediately bring up traditional spiritual or religious ideas. Can you sort of illuminate what being truly signifies within Tolle's framework, and how does it differentiate from maybe more conventional anthropomorphic ideas of God?
That's a great starting point. Being is Tolle's term for the eternal, ever-present one life. It's what exists beyond all the transient forms we see and experience. Think of it like the ocean that's being, from which all the waves, the forms arise, and eventually they dissolve back into it. Each wave is unique, sure it has its own shape and duration, but it's fundamentally water. And Tolle prefers being over God for a really crucial reason. The word God often carries these mental images, these preconceived notions, doesn't it? It tends to limit the infinite. Being, on the other hand, is an open concept. It resists being defined mentally or, exclusively possessed by any single belief system.
So it's deliberately less defined, less graspable by the mind.
Exactly. And the profound implication here is that being isn't just some distant, transcendent force out there. It's also deeply immanent. It's right here. It's the deepest, invisible, indestructible essence within every single form, and most crucially, within you. You can't really grasp it intellectually. It's known through a felt realization. It's that quiet hum beneath your thoughts, the feeling of your own presence that emerges when the mind gets still.
That feeling of just being here.
Precisely. And this state, which Tolle calls enlightenment, isn't some extraordinary, unattainable achievement reserved for a few. He says it's simply your natural state of felt oneness with being, this undeniable connection to something immeasurable, indestructible, which is intrinsically you, yet vastly greater than your personal egoic self. It's really about discovering your true nature, beyond any label or form.
Okay, so if this being, this inherent oneness, is our natural state, and it's always present, why aren't we all just walking around enlightened all the time? What creates this apparent struggle, this difficulty in accessing what's supposedly intrinsically ours?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The greatest obstacle Tolle identifies is identification with your mind. This is where thinking shifts from being a useful tool to becoming a compulsive master. This incessant mental noise is incredibly widespread. And because almost everyone experiences it, we tend to think it's normal. But this constant internal chatter creates this impenetrable screen, a screen of concepts, labels, images, judgments. And this screen effectively blocks authentic relationship, not just with other people or nature, but with your own deepest self, and ultimately with being itself. It manufactures this powerful illusion of separateness.
So we mistake the screen for reality.
We do. And this mind identification, this deep-seated belief that you are your thoughts, gives rise to what he calls the false mind-made self, the ego. This ego then casts this pervasive shadow of fear and suffering over our lives. The mind, when it's used wrongly, essentially uses you. You become, as he puts it, possessed without knowing it, taking this possessing entity, this ego, to be your true self. This is really the root of so much human dysfunction and widespread suffering. The mind is a superb instrument when we consciously wield it, but when it wields us, it leads to profound delusion.
Right, which brings us to this really radical proposition Tolle offers. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the thinker. That's such a powerful distinction, isn't it? Separating ourselves from that voice in our head. But how does one even begin to watch the thinker, especially when that inner voice feels so intimately us?
It does feel like us, absolutely. The first truly liberating step is simply to start listening to the voice in your head as often as you can. And this isn't about judging or condemning what you hear. That would just be the same voice re-entering through a different door, wouldn't it? It just perpetuates the cycle. Instead, it's about detached, impartial observation. Like you're listening to someone else talk. You'll begin to notice the recurring thought patterns, those old audio tapes, as he sometimes calls them, that have been playing maybe for years and years.
The same old stories on repeat.
Exactly. And what you will then realize is profoundly simple, yet utterly transformative. There is the voice, and here I am listening to it, watching it. This I am realization, this sense of your own presence, it's not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. As you listen, you become aware not just of the thought's content, but also of yourself as the witness of the thought. A completely new dimension of consciousness starts to emerge.
Like stepping back from the screen.
Precisely. You sense a conscious presence, your deeper self behind or underneath the thought stream. And when this witnessing presence is activated, the thought loses its power over you. It quickly subsides. Why? Because you're no longer fueling the mind through unconscious identification. This is the beginning, the real beginning, of the end of involuntary and compulsive thinking. It's the first taste of true liberation, the realization that you are not the voice, you are not the thought, you are the awareness behind it.
So if that incessant flow, that compulsive thinking begins to quiet down, if those thoughts actually subside, what emerges in that newfound space, in that silence? What fills that apparent void?
That's where the magic happens. When a thought subsides, you experience a discontinuity in the mental stream, what Tolle vividly terms a gap of no mind. Now, initially these gaps might be fleeting, maybe just a few seconds, but with consistent practice they gradually lengthen, they become more accessible, and within these gaps you will unmistakably feel, a certain stillness and peace inside you. This is the tangible return. It's coming back to your natural state of felt oneness with being, a state that's habitually obscured by the mind's relentless activity.
It's like the clouds parting and seeing the blue sky that was always there.
A perfect analogy. And as you deepen this practice, that sense of stillness and peace deepens without limit. You'll also begin to discern this subtle emanation of joy arising from deep within you. This isn't excitement, it's the quiet joy of being. In this state of interconnectedness, there's a fascinating paradox. You actually become far more alert, more awake, more vibrantly alive than in the mind-identified state. You are fully present, unburdened by the weight of the past or the anxieties of the future. This heightened presence even elevates the vibrational frequency of the energy field that gives life to your physical body. He talks about that quite specifically. As you delve deeper into this realm of no mind, you start to experience pure consciousness, a state where the sheer intensity and joy of your own presence render all thinking, all emotions, your physical body, even the entire external world relatively insignificant in comparison. Wow. And this isn't a selfish state, importantly, it's profoundly selfless. It transcends the boundaries of what you previously perceived as yourself. That presence is simultaneously intrinsically you and unimaginably vaster than you.
That sounds incredibly powerful, truly transformative, a profound relief, really, from all that mental noise. Now, beyond just observing our thoughts passively, are there other more tangible, practical ways to intentionally invite these moments of stillness, these gaps, into our daily experience?
Yes, absolutely. And what's truly insightful here is that you don't solely have to rely on thoughts just stopping on their own. You can actively create these gaps. How? Simply by directing the focus of your attention into the now. This, he says, is the essence of meditation. It's being highly alert and aware but not thinking. It's a deeply satisfying practice because it consciously draws consciousness away from that incessant mind activity and directly establishes that space of presence. So this really highlights that true meditation isn't just about trying to empty the mind, which can feel like a struggle. It's about actively being present, being conscious without the need for thought. It's about cultivating pure awareness.
Okay, so bringing it down to earth. What does this profound shift towards the now really mean for our ordinary, busy daily lives? For someone, juggling work, family, endless responsibilities.
How can they embody this radical idea without having to retreat to a meditation cushion for hours every day?
That's the beauty of Tolle's approach. It's intensely practical.
Yeah.
He provides remarkably clear and accessible guidelines for weaving this into the very fabric of everyday existence. You can take any routine activity that normally is only the means to an end and give it your fullest attention so that it becomes an end in itself. It's not about doing more. It's about being more present in what you're already doing. This simple shift transforms the mundane into a potent gateway for presence.
Like washing the dishes, maybe.
Exactly. Or for instance, when you're walking up or down the stairs, maybe at home or at work, instead of letting your mind race ahead to tomorrow's to-do list or replay yesterday's conversation, pay close attention to every step, every movement, even your breathing. Be totally present with that simple act. Feel your feet on the steps, the movement of your body.
Small moments, then.
Yes. Or consider washing your hands. Instead of rushing through it, pay attention to all the sense perceptions associated with the activity. The sound and feel of the water, the movement of your hands, the scent of the soap. Really be there for it. Another powerful yet incredibly subtle practice he suggests is this. When you get into your car, after you close the door, just pause for a few seconds and observe the flow of your breath. Become aware of a silent but powerful sense of presence before you even turn the key or check your phone.
Just a conscious pause.
Just a pause. These aren't grand gestures. They are brief, totally accessible moments that consistently anchor you back in the now. Little anchors throughout the day. And the single most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment, Tolle insists repeatedly, is this. Learn to disidentify from your mind. Every single time you consciously create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. And he offers a very direct, unvarnished criterion for measuring your progress.
How do you know it's working?
Simply by the degree of peace that you feel within. When you can feel this inner peace, even subtly, even if it's chaos, you know you're making profound progress. He says one day you might even find yourself smiling at the voice in your head, as you would at the antics of a child.
Ah, that's a great image.
Isn't it? It signifies that you no longer take the content of your mind quite so seriously, because your core sense of self no longer depends on it. You're becoming free.
This mind, this ego you mentioned earlier, it really seems to be such a central player in our suffering. It creates what Tolle calls this phantom self. It sounds like it's right at the very root of so much of our human distress. Let's maybe delve deeper into its role now, especially when it comes to something as universal as fear and how it sustains that relentless mental narrative. So, moving into part 2, dissolving suffering, fear, pain, and time. Fear, it's an experience everyone grapples with, isn't it? But Tolle makes this really striking distinction. He suggests much of what we feel is psychological fear, and it's fundamentally divorced from, concrete and true immediate danger. Can you break down what he means by that? How does it differ from a genuinely threatening situation where fear is actually useful?
Absolutely. It's a critical distinction. Tolle posits that most of the fear we experience isn't a reaction to what is happening right now in this very second. It's a reaction to what might happen. It's your mind projected into the future, constantly creating this anxiety gap. Imagine, you're crossing a busy street and a bus is undeniably hurtling towards you. That's direct, immediate, appropriate fear. It saves your life.
Right. Useful fear.
Useful fear. But psychological fear is that pervasive, what if I lose my job? Or what if they don't like me? Or what if I get sick? And when there's no actual imminent threat right now. It's the ego's constant, often totally unwarranted alarm bell ringing. And as long as you are identified with your mind, Tolle says, the ego runs your life. And because of its phantom nature, this ego, despite any outward show of confidence, is inherently vulnerable and insecure. It perceives itself as constantly under threat.
Even when objectively safe.
Even when objectively safe. And an emotion, as he defines it quite simply, is the body's reaction to your mind. So if the ego is incessantly broadcasting this background message of danger, I am under threat, what emotion is continuously generated in the body?
Fear.
Fear, of course. Tolle states that ultimately, all psychological fear, whether it manifests as fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of physical harm, is at its deepest core the ego's fundamental fear of death, of annihilation. To the ego, death is always just around the corner. And this underlying existential terror permeates every aspect of life when you remain primarily in a mind-identified state.
That's a really profound connection to make, that even seemingly trivial behaviors like being defensive in an argument could be rooted in such a deep-seated fear. Can that truly be traced back to this underlying fear of death? It feels almost counterintuitive.
It does feel counterintuitive, yet the connection, according to Tolle, is precise. He says that even that compulsive need to be right in an argument, that fierce defense of a mental position you've identified with, it stems directly from the ego's fear of death. Because to the ego, to be wrong is to die. If your entire sense of self, your very identity, is constructed upon a particular mental position or belief,
Like, I am someone who believes X.
exactly, then being proven wrong threatens the annihilation of that identity. This underlying terror is why countless arguments escalate unnecessarily, why relationships fracture over opinions, and even why, on a larger scale, wars have been fought over abstract beliefs. The ego feels existentially threatened.
Wow, okay. So the actionable insight here is quite stark then.
It is, he advises. Watch out for any kind of defensiveness within yourself. Ask yourself, what am I truly defending here? An illusory identity, a flimsy image constructed purely in my mind. By making this unconscious pattern conscious, by simply witnessing it without judgment, you begin to disidentify from it. In the clear light of your awareness, that unconscious pattern quickly dissolves. Once you've disidentified from your mind in this way, whether you are technically right or wrong in an argument makes no difference to your sense of self at all. It just doesn't matter on that deep level anymore.
The need just falls away.
It does. That forceful, compulsive, deeply unconscious need to be right, which is, in its essence, a subtle form of inner violence, simply ceases to be. You can then state clearly and firmly how you feel or what you think, sure, but there will be no aggressiveness behind it, no defensiveness, no egoic attachment to the outcome. Your true sense of self is then derived from a deeper, much more unshakable place within you, not from the fleeting projections and positions of the mind. This truly signifies, as he puts it, the end of all arguments and power games that so relentlessly erode our relationships and peace of mind.
It becomes strikingly clear, listening to this, that this constant engagement with past and future, what Tolle calls psychological time, is just a monumental source of our suffering. It traps us, doesn't it, in this perpetual cycle of regret about the past and anxiety about the future. How then do we actually end the delusion of time? How do we decisively make the present moment, the now, the primary focus of our lives?
This is perhaps the most critical insight Tolle offers, the absolute core of his teaching. He urges us repeatedly to realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Make the now the primary focus of your life. Now, this isn't about suddenly abandoning all practical planning or ignoring lessons from the past. It's a radical shift in your psychological dwelling place. He puts it beautifully. Whereas before you dwelt in time and paid brief visits to the now have your dwelling place in the now and pay brief visits to past and future when required to deal with the practical aspects of your life.
So, visit time, but live in the now.
Precisely. The past is to be learned from, reflected upon when needed. The future is to be planned for, envisioned when necessary. But both are accessed from the stable platform of the present, not lived in as if they were more real than this moment. The core principle here is that time and mind are inseparable. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. It's automatic. This manifests as the compulsion to live almost exclusively through memory and anticipation, this endless preoccupation with what was and what might be, and a fundamental unwillingness, often unconscious, to honor and acknowledge the present moment and simply allow it to be as it is.
Why are we so unwilling? Why the compulsion?
Well, the compulsion arises because the past gives the ego its identity, its story, and the future holds the illusory promise of salvation or fulfillment. I'll be happy when. Both, Tolle states unequivocally, are illusions constructed by the mind. The more your attention is fixed on time, past, and future, the more you miss the now, which he calls the most precious thing there is.
But why? Why is the now so uniquely precious? Why is it the only access point to what we truly need or seek?
Two key reasons. Firstly, quite simply, because it is the only thing that actually is. It's all there is. The eternal present is the timeless space within which your entire life unfolds. It's the one constant backdrop. Life is now. There has never been a moment when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. Think about it.
It's undeniable when you put it like that.
It is. Secondly, and equally profound, the now is the only point that can take you beyond the limited confines of the mind. It is your sole access point into the timeless and formless realm of being. He poses these direct, almost unanswerable by-the-mind questions. Have you ever truly experienced anything, done anything, thought anything, or felt anything outside the now? Do you genuinely believe you ever will? Is it even possible for anything to happen or exist outside the now?
No. The answer has to be no.
The answer, upon genuine, honest inquiry, is obvious. Nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in a past. Now that we now call the past. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in a past. Now that is yet to arrive. The essence of this truth, though, can't just be grasped by the conceptual mind alone. It needs to be felt. The moment you genuinely grasp it, there's a distinct felt shift in consciousness. It's a shift from the relentless activity of the mind to the profound stillness of being, from the linear construct of time to the vibrant reality of presence. Suddenly, everything you perceive feels more vibrantly alive. It seems to radiate energy, emanate being. The illusion of time begins to dissipate, and with it, the suffocating grip of pain and the egoic mind starts to loosen. It's a profound homecoming.
Okay. We often find ourselves, though, completely burdened by what we call our life, which often just seems like this endless catalog of problems, unfinished tasks, past grievances, future worries. Tolle makes this really intriguing distinction between your life situation and life itself. What exactly is this distinction, and why is understanding it so crucial for our well-being, for our sense of freedom?
It's a hugely important distinction. Your life situation is, in essence, psychological time, past and future. It's the narrative. It's the story of all those things that didn't go the way you wanted them to, everything you're resisting from your past, and all your future hopes, fears, and anxieties. It is unequivocally mind stuff.
The story we tell ourselves about our life.
Exactly. Your life, in strict contrast, is now. It is raw, immediate, sensory, and real. Tolle strongly encourages us to forget about your life situation for a while and pay attention to your life. Your life situation exists in time, but your actual life is the now. He challenges us directly, asks us to locate this life underneath your life situation. He poses the question, your life situation may be full of problems, but find out if you have any problem at this moment. Not tomorrow or in 10 minutes, but now. Do you have a problem right now?
And usually the answer is no. Right now, breathing, sitting here, no immediate problem.
Often, yes. When your mind is completely saturated with perceived problems, there's simply no inner space for anything new to enter. There's no room for clarity, no opening for a solution to arise. So his advice is crystal clear. Whenever you can, create this inner spaciousness. How? By narrowing your focus down to this very moment, what is actually happening right now before the mind labels it.
How do we concretely access that life then? The life that exists underneath the life situation? What are the practical steps to step out of that mental narrative and into the immediacy of the present?
To find this life underneath your life situation, Tolle instructs us to fully engage our senses. It's very direct. Look around. Just look, don't interpret. See the light, shapes, colors, textures. Just pure perception. Listen to sounds, but don't judge them or project meaning onto them. Listen also for the silence that underlies and surrounds all sounds. Touch something, anything nearby, and feel and acknowledge its sheer isness, its presence. Become aware of the rhythm of your own breathing. Feel the air flowing in and out. Feel the subtle life energy pulsating inside your physical body. He urges us to allow everything to be, within and without. Allow the isness of all things.
Just letting it be.
Just letting it be, by moving deeply into the time. Now, through this heightened sensory awareness, you effectively leave behind the deadening world of mental abstraction, of time. You are literally stepping out of the insane mind that is draining you of life energy, as he puts it. You're awakening from the dream of time into the vibrant living reality of the present.
This leads us to one of Tolle's most radical claims, and one that can be hard to swallow sometimes. All problems are illusions of the mind. That's a truly provocative statement, isn't it? Especially when people listening are grappling with very real, impactful issues, financial struggles, health crises, relationship breakdowns. How does Tolle reconcile that feeling of undeniable reality with his claim that these are illusions? Isn't that potentially dismissive of genuine suffering, or is there a deeper meaning he's pointing towards?
It's a crucial distinction, and it's definitely not meant to be dismissive. He asserts that it is impossible to have a problem when your attention is fully in the now. A situation, he clarifies, is real. A situation either needs to be dealt with or accepted. The problem arises when you are dwelling on a situation mentally without there being a true intention or possibility of taking action now, and, crucially, you unconsciously make that mental dwelling, that narrative of the problem, a part of your sense of self.
So the problem is the mental overlay, the resistance.
Exactly. It's when you become so overwhelmed by your perceived life situation that you lose touch with the vibrancy of life itself, with being. Or it's when you're carrying the insane burden of 100 things you will or may have to do in the future, instead of focusing your precious attention on the single thing you can do now. The mind, he says, unconsciously loves problems because they give you an identity of sorts, a problem identity. This, he acknowledges, is normal in our current state of consciousness, but it is ultimately insane because it generates suffering.
It gives the ego something to chew on.
Precisely. So he proposes a simple but very radical choice, a profound act of self-liberation. No matter what happens, I will create no more pain for myself. I will create no more problems. This is a decision that can only truly rise when you are genuinely fed up with suffering. And you won't be able to sustain it, he cautions, unless you learn to consistently access the power of the Negamore. If you create no more pain for yourself, then by natural extension, you create no more pain for others. You cease to contaminate the earth and the collective human psyche with the negativity of unnecessary problem making.
And how does this affect our actions?
When you act out of present moment awareness, whatever you do becomes imbued with a heightened sense of quality, care, and even love, even the most simple, mundane action. Tolle advises, do not be concerned with the fruit of your action. Just give attention to the action itself. The fruit will come of its own accord. This is a powerful spiritual practice. When that compulsive striving away from the now ceases, the joy of being flows into everything you do. You're no longer dependent on the future for fulfillment and happiness, and therefore you're not desperately attached to results. Neither failure nor conventional success has the power to fundamentally alter your inner state of being. You have finally found the life, the real life, that exists underneath your life situation.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly now into part 3. Relationships and surrender catalysts for consciousness. Moving from the individual mind, Tolle also delves deeply into relationships, often calling them a potent spiritual practice. He discusses the often difficult dynamics of love-hate relationships and introduces a really key concept he terms the pain body. Can you explain what this pain body is? How does it form, and how does it dramatically manifest itself, often destructively, in our most intimate connections with others?
The pain body is a fascinating and crucial concept. He defines it as an accumulated field of old emotional pain, a kind of negative energy field that occupies your body and mind. It's forged from all our unresolved emotional suffering, including significantly trauma and pain from childhood. It exists in 2 modes, dormant and active. While it might lie dormant much of the time in a deeply unhappy person, it can be almost constantly active, just beneath the surface.
Waiting to be triggered.
Exactly. It's triggered by situations, remarks, or interactions that resonate with a pain pattern from your past. Even an innocent comment from someone close, if it hits that old wound, can activate it. It suddenly awakens like a sleeping monster. And Tolle makes the provocative statement that most love relationships become love-hate relationships before long. Why? Because we often mistakenly equate ego attachment and addictive clinging with love.
We think attachment is love.
We do. But true love, he argues, has no opposite. If what you call love has an opposite like hate or deep resentment or fear, it's not love. It's an intense ego need for a more complete sense of self, a desperate longing that you mistakenly believe the other person can fulfill. It's the ego's subtle substitution for true inner salvation, for finding being within yourself.
So the partner becomes the target when they fail to fulfill that impossible need.
Precisely. When a partner inevitably fails to meet the ego's insatiable demands, the feelings of fear, pain, and lack, which are actually intrinsic to egoic consciousness but were maybe temporarily masked by the initial romance, now resurface with a vengeance. And we then instinctively project these painful feelings outward, often attacking the other person with, as he puts it, the savage violence that is part of your pain body. Unquote. Every addiction, Tolle asserts, arises from an unconscious refusal to face and move through your own pain. Whether it's an addiction to a substance, an activity, or a person, it's a desperate attempt to cover up a profound underlying pain. This is precisely why, after the initial euphoric phase wears off, so much unhappiness inevitably emerges in intimate relationships. The relationships themselves don't cause the pain and unhappiness. They bring out the pain and unhappiness that is already in you. They bring it to the surface so it can finally be seen and potentially transmuted.
So if this pain body is such an ingrained, seemingly autonomous negative energy field that can just take us over, how do we effectively break free from its grip? How do we prevent it from continuing to feed on our interactions and perpetuating all this suffering in relationships and within ourselves?
The essential key, the only way out, is unwavering observation, or what Tolle simply calls presence. The pain body doesn't want you to observe it directly. It thrives in darkness, in unconsciousness. But the moment you observe the pain body, feel its energy field within you, and take your attention into it, the identification is broken. Instantly.
Yeah.
A higher dimension of consciousness, pure presence, awareness enters the scene. You are no longer of the pain body. You become the witness or the watcher of the pain body.
You're not possessed by it anymore.
Exactly. This means it can no longer use you by pretending to be you. And crucially, it can no longer replenish itself by feeding on your reactions, your anger, your resentment, your withdrawal. In that moment of conscious witnessing, you have found your own innermost strength, a power that transcends the pain body entirely. So Tolle advises a kind of continuous vigilance. Watch out for any sign of unhappiness in yourself, in whatever form. Catch it the moment it awakens from its dormant state. Feel that familiar pull, that energy signature, then the crucial step. Focus attention on the feeling inside you. Know that it is the pain body. Accept that it's there. And this is vital. Don't think about it. Don't let the feeling turn into thinking. Don't judge or analyze.
Just feel it directly, without the story.
Just feel it directly. Simply stay present as the non-identifying observer of the feeling. This sustained conscious attention severs the link between the raw energy of the pain body and your habitual thought processes, thereby initiating the profound process of transmutation.
Yeah.
It's as if the raw, dense energy of the pain becomes fuel for the flame of your consciousness, which then burns more brightly. He explicitly calls this the esoteric meaning of the ancient art of alchemy, the transmutation of base metal into gold, of suffering into consciousness.
Wow.
The deep internal split is healed, and you return to a state of wholeness. Now, there's a profound insight here. If you have unconsciously purged an identity from your pain body, maybe a victim identity, a deeply unhappy self and unconscious fear of losing that familiar identity will create powerful resistance to this process of disidentification.
You might cling to the suffering because it's familiar.
Paradoxically, yes. You might unconsciously rather cling to your known pain than take the leap into the unknown freedom of pure presence. The path to overcoming this is, again, to make it conscious. Observe the resistance within yourself. Observe the attachment to your pain. Be very alert. Observe the peculiar pleasure you derive from being unhappy. Observe the compulsion to talk or think about it.
The resistance itself will cease the moment you make it conscious, see it for what it is. Only then can you fully take your attention into the pain body, remain present as the witness, and initiate its profound transmutation.
Okay. So, if we can successfully address this deep-seated pain body, if we can disidentify from its grip through presence, what then does an enlightened relationship truly look like, according to Tolle? How does it fundamentally differ from that addictive clinging and those volatile love-hate dynamics that so often define conventional relationships? Well, for true love to flourish, the light of your presence needs to be strong enough so that you no longer get taken over by the thinker or the pain body. That's the prerequisite. True love, Tolle states emphatically, has no opposite. If what you perceive as love has an opposite, like hate, intense fear, possessive attachment, then it simply is not love. It's an ego need, a strategy the ego uses for perceived completion or validation. He states, with absolute clarity and practicality, the greatest catalyst for change in a relationship is complete acceptance of your partner as he or she is, without needing to judge or change them in any way. Not resignation, but true acceptance. That immediately takes you beyond ego.
Just accepting them, flaws and all, right now.
Right now, as they are. Once you can genuinely do that, all mind games and all addictive clinging are then over. There are no victims and no perpetrators anymore. This is also the end of all codependency. It just dissolves the dynamic. At that point, he says, you will either naturally separate, perhaps in a spirit of love and understanding, without lingering resentment, or you will move ever more deeply into the depetrant. Now together, into being. The relationship transforms. Love, fundamentally, is not an external dependency. It's a profound state of being that originates deep within you. Your love is not outside. It is deep within you. You can never lose it. It is not dependent on some other body, some external form.
It's not something you get from someone else.
Exactly. In the stillness of your own presence, you can begin to feel your own formless and timeless reality, the unmanifested life animating your physical form. And from that deep place of knowing, you can then feel the same life pulsating deep within every other human being and every other creature. You look beyond the veil of form and separation. This is the realization of oneness. This is love. Tolle knows something really interesting. Relationships, as fraught with problems and conflicts as they currently are not here primarily to make you happy or fulfilled in the conventional sense.
What are they here for then?
Rather, he suggests they are here to make you conscious. If you accept this profound purpose, the relationship itself, with all its challenges, offers you a direct path to salvation, a way to align with a higher consciousness. This means that even when you are not feeling at peace in a relationship, your conscious knowing that you are not at peace creates a still space. It surrounds your non-peace in a loving and tender embrace, and that very awareness begins to transmute the non-peace into peace.
Wow, that's powerful, using the difficulty itself.
Now, there's this other concept he mentions, which sounds almost radically counterintuitive, especially today: giving up the relationship with yourself. In a world that heavily emphasizes self-love, self-acceptance, self-care, what does Tolle truly mean by this?
And why does he see it as crucial for profound personal transformation?
It does sound counterintuitive, doesn't it? But he's pointing directly to the fundamental duality created by the thinking mind. The division of I and myself, the subject and the object. This mind-created duality, he argues, is the root cause of all unnecessary complexity, of all problems and conflict in your life. He suggests that in the state of enlightenment, you are yourself. You and yourself merge into one. There's no split.
No internal other to relate to.
Well, exactly. This means that in that liberated state, you don't judge yourself, you don't feel sorry for yourself, you aren't proud of yourself, you don't love yourself, you don't hate yourself, and so on. All these activities, he points out, are activities of the mind-created self relating to itself. They require that internal split. The deep split caused by self-reflective consciousness is healed, and its inherent curse, the source of so much inner turmoil, is removed. There is simply no longer a separate self that you feel compelled to constantly protect, defend, or feed with external validation or internal narrative.
The need just evaporates.
It's a profound, almost unimaginable shift from the egoic perspective. When you are enlightened, there is one relationship that you no longer have, the relationship with yourself. And once you've genuinely given that up, Tolle states quite radically, all your other relationships will be love relationships. So this isn't about neglecting genuine self-care or self-compassion. It's about dissolving the internal division, that phantom self that creates suffering and perpetuates projection onto others. It highlights that true self-acceptance removes the very need for a relationship with a separate mind-made self. When you fully accept this moment, precisely as it is, you are by definition completely at ease with yourself. There's no conflict.
Okay, let's move into the final section, part 4. The transformative power of surrender. Life, as we all experience it, is this constant interplay of ups and downs, successes, and apparent failures. Tolle aptly calls these cycles. He underscores the profound importance of understanding impermanence and how we navigate these inevitable shifts, particularly the down cycles, which we often resist so strongly. How does the practice of surrender enable us to flow with these changes, instead of constantly fighting them and suffering as a result?
Tolle explains that existence operates in these natural cycles of success, when things come to you and thrive, and cycles of failure, when they wither or disintegrate. And you have to let them go in order to make room for new things to arise or for transformation to happen.
Yeah.
It's the natural rhythm of life. He warns, if you cling and resist at that point during dissolution, it means you're refusing to go with the flow of life and you will suffer. Dissolution isn't just inevitable. He says it's absolutely necessary for new growth. One cycle cannot exist or manifest without the other. They're two sides of the same coin.
Like winter being necessary for spring.
Exactly. And he makes a crucial point. The down cycle is absolutely essential for spiritual realization. It's often in those times of loss or difficulty that the ego cracks open, allowing presence to emerge. He keenly observes that many physical illnesses are, in fact, created or exacerbated by fighting against the cycles of low energy, which are actually vital periods for regeneration, rest, and inner realignment. We push when we should be yielding. The mind, in its inherent clinging nature, attaches itself to whatever it judges as good, a relationship, a possession, a social role, an identity, and identifies with it. I am this. But in this dimension of form, as he poetically puts it, nothing lasts where moth and rust consume. Everything changes.
Impermanence is the only constant.
Right. So when a condition or a form changes or disappears, the mind, identified with it, cannot accept it. And this resistance inevitably leads to suffering. He makes a striking, almost paradoxical observation here. Your happiness and unhappiness are in fact one. Only the illusion of time separates them. They are part of the same cycle of form.
So what is surrender then in this context?
Surrender, in this profound context, is defined simply as offering no resistance to life, choosing to reside in a state of grace, ease, and lightness, regardless of the external cycle. This state is no longer dependent upon things being in a certain way, good or bad. And the paradox is remarkable. When that interdependency on external forms is dissolved through surrender, the general conditions of your life, the outer circumstances, tend to improve greatly. Things, people, or conditions you once thought you desperately needed for happiness now often manifest with surprising ease, maybe because the resistance is gone.
And you can actually enjoy them without clinging.
Exactly. You are truly free to enjoy and appreciate them for as long as they naturally last. Cycles will continue to come and go, that's the nature of form. But with the interdependency gone, there is no fear of loss anymore. Even if everything around you were to collapse externally, you would still feel a deep, unshakable inner core of peace. You may not always feel happy in the conventional excited sense, but you will always be fundamentally at peace.
Okay. Now, negativity, whether it's just subtle irritation or searing anger or even profound despair, is something we all experience. It feels like an enemy, something to be fought, suppressed, gotten rid of. Yet Tolle suggests we can actually use it. What is the hidden purpose, if any, of negativity within his framework? And how can we leverage it for our spiritual growth rather than just allowing it to consume us?
All inner resistance, Tolle states quite simply, is experienced as negativity in one form or another. Irritation, anger, resentment, sadness, despair, it's all resistance to what is. The ego, in its inherent delusion, believes that through negativity it can manipulate reality and get what it wants. Like complaining will change things or anger will force a situation. But this is a profound fallacy. He says negativity actually stops desirable conditions from arising and keeps undesirable ones firmly in place. It reinforces the very thing it resists.
So its only useful function
is that it strengthens the ego. That's all it achieves. So his transformative proposal is this. Whenever you feel negativity arising within you, look on it as a clear voice saying, attention, here and now, wake up, get out of your mind, be present. Treat it like an alarm bell for presence. Even the slightest irritation, he stresses, needs to be acknowledged and looked at. Otherwise, there will be this cumulative buildup of unobserved, reactive patterns within you, poisoning your inner state.
So don't ignore it, but don't get lost in it either.
Precisely. If you find you cannot simply drop the negativity, then the next step is to fully accept that it is there. Take your conscious attention into the very feeling of it, without resistance, as we discussed with the pain body. As a powerful alternative practice, he suggests you can make a negative reaction disappear by imagining yourself becoming transparent to its external cause. Let the noise, the rude comment, or whatever triggers the negative reaction pass right through you. It is no longer hitting a solid wall inside you.
So this idea of transparency, it implies a really radical form of forgiveness or non-resistance. Can you expand on what that truly means in practice? Especially when you're faced with something genuinely difficult, like someone's intentional rudeness or a personal slight that feels deeply unjust. How do you become transparent to that?
Exactly. It signifies a profound shift from being a reactive entity, a solid me that can be hit, to becoming like empty space, pure, unshakable presence. Tolle suggests practicing this first with little, even trivial things. A blaring car alarm down the street, a barking dog next door, children screaming nearby, a frustrating traffic jam. Instead of erecting a wall of resistance inside you that gets constantly and painfully hit by things that should not be happening, consciously choose to let everything pass through you. Offer no inner resistance.
Become porous.
Become porous, yes. Then when someone says something rude, hurtful, or deliberately provocative, instead of going into unconscious reaction and negativity, such as attack, defense, or withdrawal, you simply let it pass right through you. Offer no resistance. It's as if there is nobody there to get hurt anymore. This, he declares quite powerfully, is forgiveness. In this way, you become invulnerable. Now, this doesn't mean you condone harmful behavior or become a doormat. You can still communicate clearly that their behavior is unacceptable if you choose or take practical action. But they no longer possess the power to control your inner state. You are operating from your own innate power, your presence, not from reaction to someone else's unconsciousness, nor are you dictated by your reactive mind.
You maintain your inner peace regardless.
Yes, and he also offers this truly radical insight concerning peace itself. Don't look for peace. Don't look for any other state than the one you are in now. This means dropping the resistance to your current experience, whatever it may be, even if it's non-peace. Instead, forgive yourself for not being at peace. That acceptance is the turning point. The moment you completely accept your non-peace becomes transmuted into peace. Anything you accept fully without internal resistance will get you there, will take you into peace. This is the miracle of surrender. It implies that when you accept what is, every moment is the best moment. That is enlightenment.
That acceptance piece is key.
It illuminates the profound truth that the very fight against what is precisely what prevents the experience of peace we often seek.
Now, this concept of surrender is taken to its ultimate extreme by Tolle, isn't it? Extending even to severe illness and deep suffering, which for many are the supreme challenges in life, often feeling like an inescapable, crushing burden. How can something as difficult and debilitating as illness or intense pain possibly be transformed into a profound path to enlightenment?
It seems almost impossible from the mind's perspective. But Tolle clarifies that surrender in the context of illness isn't about giving up on life or resigning yourself to a miserable future story. It is inner acceptance of what is without any reservations in this instant. It's not surrendering to the entire life situation or the mental idea of illness. Instead, when experiencing illness, you focus on this instant and refrain from labeling it mentally. You reduce it to the raw, direct experience of physical pain, weakness, discomfort, or disability. That immediate present sensation is what you surrender to right now. You are not surrendering to the idea or the story of illness that your mind creates around the sensation.
Just the raw physical reality of this moment.
Exactly. And the radical shift is this. Allow the suffering to force you into the present moment, into a state of intense conscious presence. Use it for enlightenment. Surrender, he emphasizes again, does not transform what is, at least not directly. Surrender transforms you. When you are transformed, your whole world is transformed, because the world is only a reflection of your inner state. Illness, he suggests, is not the fundamental problem. You are the problem as long as the egoic mind is in control through resistance. If you are facing a major illness, his advice is stark. Use it for enlightenment. Anything bad that happens in your life, use it for enlightenment.
Wow.
His instruction is precise. Withdraw time from the illness. Do not give it any past or future. Let it force you into intense present moment awareness and see what happens. This intense pressure becomes the crucible of transformation, burning away the ego's resistance.
This truly sounds like an alchemical process, as you mentioned before, transmuting suffering itself into something higher. Can you elaborate on that profound connection more deeply?
Yes, he explicitly uses that metaphor. Become an alchemist, transmute base metal into gold, suffering into consciousness, disaster into enlightenment. He speaks of intense suffering as offering a second chance at surrender, a powerful, albeit difficult opportunity. If you cannot accept what is outside the external situation, then accept what is inside the feeling it creates. If you cannot accept the external condition, accept the internal condition. This means do not resist the pain. Allow it to be there. Surrender to the grief, despair, fear, loneliness, or whatever form the suffering takes. Witness it without labeling it mentally. Embrace it.
Lean into it rather than run from it.
Exactly. When you engage in this radical acceptance, you then observe how the miracle of surrender transmutes deep suffering into deep peace. This, he says dramatically, is your crucifixion. Let it become your resurrection and ascension. He highlights that facing deep pain directly, allowing it to be, taking your conscious attention into it, is to enter death consciously. When you have died this death, the death of the ego's identification with suffering and form, you realize that there is no death and there is nothing to fear. Only the ego dies. This profound acceptance of suffering becomes the most direct pathway possible to realizing your indestructible, immortal being, a certainty that requires no external proof or belief.
Okay, so given how deeply conditioned we are by our minds, by our past patterns, what does all of this really mean for personal agency? Do we truly have the power to choose this path of presence and surrender, or are we simply victims of our conditioning until some external shift or maybe grace occurs? It seems like such a monumental internal transformation is required.
That's an essential inquiry, isn't it? Choice, Tolle explains, implies consciousness, a high degree of consciousness. Without that awareness, he states quite bluntly, you have no choice. True choice begins the moment you disidentify from the mind and its conditioned patterns, the moment you become present. Until that point, you are, spiritually speaking, unconscious, which means you are essentially compelled to think, feel, and act in certain habitual ways, according to the deep conditioning embedded in your mind from the past.
So presence is choice.
Presence unlocks choice. Nobody consciously chooses dysfunction, conflict, or profound pain. Nobody chooses insanity. They happen because there is not enough presence in you to dissolve the past, to interrupt the conditioned reaction. When you realize this fundamental truth that unconsciousness, not inherent malice, is the root cause of so much suffering in yourself and others, there can be no more resentment. How can you truly resent someone's illness or their deeply conditioned unconscious patterns? The only appropriate response, he suggests, is compassion. And this applies not just to others, but profoundly to our own conditioned behaviors, and perhaps to those we might have blamed for our past suffering.
Compassion for our own unconsciousness, too.
Absolutely. And he clarifies that you cannot truly forgive yourself or others as long as you derive your sense of self from the past. Forgiveness isn't just a mental act of saying, I forgive. It's a profound shift in being, a release. Only through accessing the power of the now, which is your own inherent power, your presence, can there be true forgiveness. This renders the past powerless, and you realize deeply that nothing you ever did or that was ever done to you could touch even in the slightest the radiant essence of who you are. The final liberating truth is this. When you surrender to what is and so become fully present, the past ceases to have any power. You do not need it anymore. presence is the key. The now is the key. Since all resistance is inseparable from the mind, the relinquishment of resistance, which is surrender, signifies the end of the mind as your master, the end of the impostor that has long pretended to be you. All judgment and all negativity then spontaneously dissolve in the light of presence. The realm of being, which had been obscured by the mind's ceaseless activity, then opens up. Suddenly, a great stillness arises within you, an unfathomable sense of peace. And within that peace, there is great joy. And within that joy, there is love. And at the innermost core, there is the sacred, the immeasurable, that which cannot be named.
Wow. What a truly profound and illuminating deep dive into Tolle's work today. We've really explored how our minds can inadvertently create just immense suffering through that identification with psychological time and the ego. And conversely, how the simple yet radical act of watching the thinker, of witnessing and accepting what is precisely what is in this very moment can unlock an immeasurable sense of peace and joy. A peace that is, in fact, our true nature, always available beneath the noise.
Mm-hmm. And if we try to connect this to the bigger picture, the consistent and undeniable thread running throughout Tolle's teachings, particularly in practicing the power of now, is this. Freedom and true peace are not to be found by seeking something outside of ourselves or projecting into some future ideal state. Instead, they reside entirely in a radical, unwavering embrace of the present moment, the now, and profound disidentification from the incessant, often self-created chatter of the mind. It is ultimately a profound homecoming to our own inherent being.
So here's something to consider. If all suffering, as Tolle suggests, is ultimately born from resistance to the present moment, what would your life look like, feel like, if you truly committed, even just for today, to fully accepting this moment exactly as it is, no matter what it contains? How might your reality begin to shift?
And Tolle himself gives the ultimate instruction, doesn't he? He says, please don't just accept or reject what I am saying. Put it to the test. Don't just absorb this intellectually as interesting ideas. Choose one of the simple practices we discussed today, maybe just for a few minutes. Observe your breath flowing in and out. Feel the palpable life energy in your hands right now. Or simply ask yourself, with genuine curiosity, what problem do I have right now? And then just observe. See what shifts within your own direct experience.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the profound reality of the now.